So Isaiah 19 is a prophecy which has several components. It's an oracle of Isaiah against Egypt. It begins with a civil war. Egypt is in the middle of a civil war. It's beginning right now. It talks about the Nile drying up. These things are beginning right now. I could lay out all the details of what's leading to that.
I keep hearing about that, about the Nile.
Well, you've had,
Is
of
that
course,
really going to happen?
you've got the Aswan Dam back in the 70s, which depleted the Nile by about 20%. It's caused all greatest ecological failure of modern history. Ethiopia now is building a second dam called the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Saudi Arabia is running out of water. They're buying up all of this land down in Ethiopia, all the marshlands, which is the basin of the Nile. Ethiopia runs out of water. That's a desert. They need a lot of water. They pump it out of the ground. They have a massive fossil reservoir of water. They're pumping it out of the ground, rapidly running out. They're not just running out of oil, they're running out of water. Then they just hose down the desert and it's gone. Egypt is the largest, most populous Arab nation in the world, about 83 million people. And when that river is depleted, it's a human catastrophe. Okay? So it speaks of that. It's not quite yet, but we can see everything lining up to where just in the next decade, this is going to become a critical issue, the Nile River.
No, it says that right here in chapter 19.
Yeah, it takes up a big part of the chapter.
The river Nile will dry up, period. That's what it says right there.
And it desolates the economy. And it goes on. It talks about being invaded by a cruel master. This is the conflict between the king of the north and the king of the south that's spoken of in Daniel 11. Of course, 2 years ago, Egypt was great friends with, whether it was Turkey or Syria or Iraq, they were great friends with them all. Now, President Erdogan in Turkey is openly calling President Sisi a dictator. Sisi's calling Erdogan a dictator. There is an incredible tension that has arisen now, and that's not going away anytime soon. So it's speaking of the eventual invasion of Egypt. You can see all of these things lining up. You can see the landscape taking shape. We're not quite there yet. But then when it gets to the most important part, and this is the glorious part, not all biblical prophecy is bad, is it speaks of a prayer movement in Egypt, a cry rising up out of Egypt. Egypt today has one of the most amazing prayer movements of any church in the world. In 2013, I went and I visited. In 2011, they had a prayer meeting. They had roughly 60,000 people gathered all night long. And this is in a nation where the Christians are only 10%.
My goodness.
They're way less than us, and they had a 60,000 people prayer meeting. Worshipped and prayed from 6 at night to 6 in the morning. We've got video footage of it in the DVD. And we went to an all-night prayer meeting when we were there, and the Church of Egypt is crying out, and they're having revival. They're beginning to experience a revival. And when you go on, Isaiah 19 actually describes a great revival throughout the entire Middle East. So listen, what's happening in the Middle East, Satan has a plan. But when Satan comes in like a flood, the Lord raises up a standard, and he has a plan as well.
Yes.